Thanks, everyone. I will never do anything worth getting caught about again. And I know that about myself, right? It's part of it's being older. You need a lot of energy to do something worth getting caught over. But I think the better part is I've found my moral compass over the years, and I know who I am, and I know what I will and won't do at this point. So I can't see myself getting caught. I say that with a little bit of pride, but I also say it with a little bit of lament too, because I remember the thrill of doing something that would let you get caught. Now, I grew up in Delaware County, and we had a ritual in Delaware County that helped you in this cause of learning how to get caught or not. And it was called drinking beer underage in the woods. And there's a whole lot of opportunity to do this, right? Well, there's a place right around the corner here, Reed Park, right? There's a little park back on Reed that it happened at sometimes. There's some really good outdoor drinking places that you could get in a lot of trouble at if you did it just wrong. The most historic of them was Elson's Glen. I don't know if there are any survivors of Elson's Glen here. Elson's Glen was a great place to go and drink beer from a keg because it was really hard for the police to get you. You'd go to the very back of the park, and there's only one entrance in, and if the police were going to come after you, you had to see them coming. It was really, really smart. There was only one exit if the police came, and it was down a stiff cliff that was covered in thorns. So if the police did come, it didn't seem too smart anymore. In fact, you'd walk around the halls on Monday morning, and if you saw people with bandages and cuts and slings on, you'd say, Elson's Glen, and they'd say, Elson's Glen, yeah. So there's places you'd go to do that. If you knew a good Prendy girl, you could go to the Trestles, right, at Nailers Run by right. Oh, sounds like some people have done that, right? You had to ask yourself, was it worth it to swim away from the police for this particular Prendy girl, right? Was it really going to be worth it swimming if you needed to? The most amazing place to me, though, was Powell Road Park. It's where the St. Francis kids drank. And if you don't know this, Powell Road Park is right in the heart of Springfield. And right in the heart of Powell Road Park is the Springfield Police Department. And the St. Francis kids would drink in the park. It seemed like genius, right? It's like hiding in plain sight, right? The police aren't going to think to do that. And if the police did decide they wanted to do something about it, you were in trouble, though, because you weren't really necessarily, because you could run in any direction. There's like 360-degree escape route, right? As opposed to Elson's Glen, where you had to jump down a cliff or you were caught. But the story I want to tell tonight is about the first time I was at one of these parties. I was a freshman in high school, and it was and it's not as bad as it's going to sound when I first say this. It was at the cemetery across the street from the school, right? But it wasn't near the tombs or anything like that. It was tucked off in the left-hand corner. And I ran on the cross-country team, and we used to go to that corner to stretch before we ran our routes in the afternoon. And there's this maybe 500-yard long paved trail that went out to Rose Tree Road. So we'd stretch, and then we'd go down this trail that we could probably do with our eyes closed to get onto our real run. And someone had the great idea, this would be the place to have a keg party, because if the police ever came, we know the trail, right? So the guy who owned the tap and threw the parties, he was the captain of the cross-country team. He was the quickest runner and long-distance runner, right? He wasn't going to get caught no matter what. And as a freshman, I remember being amazed by this business model. All he needed to own was a tap, right? And he'd go out and buy 200 plastic cups. And he would charge kids $2 to get a plastic cup. And the beer was warm, and he didn't care about that, right? That wasn't his problem. He got paid $2 for every cup. He had a big wad of money in his pocket. And if the police did decide to come, all he had to do was grab his tap and run away. He'd be home watching Marcus Welby by the time the rest of us made it down to Rose Tree Road. You know, this guy was going to get away, and the only thing that would slow him down would be the wad of cash in his pocket. I mean, he really had something good going here. And the rest of us were drinking our warm beer and trying to turn into cool people or something like that. I don't know what we're trying to do, but we're trying to do something. But the thrill of thinking the police could come was always there. And at this particular venue, it was the first time I think anyone ever had one there. There was a scout up on the road. There's always a scout right at a place. And I won't say his full name, because this is a true story too. When you hear the rest of it, it'll be even funnier. This guy, I see his name up every year when there's a campaign. He runs for office publicly still. So his name is Pete. I didn't just make that up. His name really is Pete, but that's all I'm saying. He was watching the road for police. And his job as a good scout, right? If he sees a police, he's supposed to warn us to run away. And a car pulled up, and he was standing there, and he was trying, it was a police car. He's trying to negotiate them. Oh, nothing going on down there, just a couple kids. You don't have to go see it. And next thing you know, Pete is running as fast as he can across the field. He too is on the cross-country team. And his arms are flailing, and he's running in front of the floodlight of a police car that's shining, trying to figure out what's going on. And I think about this moment because I can still hear it so clearly. If it were me, if I were playing the role of Pete, I would have run down the hill, and I probably would have shouted, "Cops, run." I might have shouted, "Run, cops." And I realized I could have yelled either one of those words, cops or run, and it would have had the same full story effect. What Pete did running down the hill, and I can still hear it, his arms are flailing, and this is what he said: "Everybody, I'd advise you to book. It's a fucking officer of the law." I counted it, that's 20 syllables where one would have done the whole job, right? No wonder the guy's in politics, right? But he does that, and we all drop our plastic cups and we run down the trail. And I'm happy to say I did not get caught. I was one of the first people down the trail. But I remember the thrill of that moment, right? The thrill of thinking, oh my gosh, I got to take off right now. And I do, in some ways, lament I will never see that moment again, but I'm also happy by that point. At this point, I'm not going to get caught unless there's anyone here who at the end of the night wants to buy a six-pack and go to Powell Road Park. Thank you.